Hi Mercedes-Benz lovers, particularly the 300E model Mercedes-Benz lovers. Today I'm going to change the rocker cover gasket because it had a little bit of a leak and it was leaking onto the manifold and making a bit of a smell. You notice I have my old rags on, by the way, so I can get covered in dirt. The first thing we're going to do is remove the air filter, which is just a few bolts, and you all know about that. And then I'll take off this little cover down here, covers the distributor, and take off the slide that covers the spark plug leads here, and then we'll unbolt it and pull it off and have a look. Just get a pair of pliers, undo this one here so it's nice and free, undo the bolt down here, bolt over there, but my one's broken, and all you do is lift the whole air filter off once it's all free. There you go, see? And out it comes. Easy. We also have a little hose here, so we undo that clip and just lever that off and we'll carry on. Just release this distributor cover with the clips on each side. Just whack that off. Don't know if it needs to come off, but it can come off anyway. Then we get a screwdriver and we put it in there and lever out the spark plug leads. There, they're off, see? And now I shall unbolt the rocker cover. These rocker cover bolts are only 10mm. And quite easy to undo, so you just go around them all and unbolt them. I've undone all the bolts along the rocker cover, and all you got to do now is just lift it off. As you can see, it comes up pretty easy. I must say everything looks pretty good along there, pretty neat and everything. I just put my finger over the timing chain and everything there, it's nice and tight. Can't see anything untoward. Anyway, so now we get a rag and clean along the edge where the rocker cover is going to go. And also I'm going to clean the inside of the rocker cover. It's got a lot of grease and gunk in there. I'll just give it a wash out with a bit of mineral terps. And while I'm at it, I'm going to get a wire brush and get all the old original paint off. It's all flaking off and burnt because it's been there for the last 24 years. So I'll just give it a clean. And then this is the gasket. And what happens, and this gasket's been there for years, they go brittle. See, it's from the heat of the engine. And for all we know, it could have been there for the last 25 years. And it goes hard and brittle. And I'll put the new one on later. Meanwhile, I'll clean. As you can see, I've cleaned the surfaces here, nice and clean, ready for the rocker to come back on with the new gasket. But the rocker cover has a lot of built-up grime in it. It probably hasn't been off for years, and I took out this baffle here just so I could clean it up a bit more, and got my wire brush there, and I'll just clean this up. I took the gasket off. It's very hard and brittle, and that's why she's leaking a little bit. And I'll clean up all around the edges here where the new gasket has to go. Well, I've finally cleaned out the rocker cover and put the baffle back inside it. The cleaning of the rocker cover took me forever. Obviously not been off for a long time. The old gasket is hard and brittle, and the new one is soft and flexible, and I'm just going to put the new gasket back on, and make sure you clean out the breather holes from the rocker cover from any rubbish that might have got in it. Okay, I'll put the rocker cover back on the engine, and been around the edges to make sure that the gasket is sitting properly. The main concern is at the back end of the engine up here, where it has a drop down part to go where the camshaft is, and it's very tight there, but you have to squeeze your fingers in just to make sure that that rubber is sitting correct. All we do now is put the bolts back in, tighten her up, put the air filter back on and give her a run to make sure there's no leaks. And that's the rocket cover gasket. Well, after changing the rocket cover gasket and cleaning the rocket cover out, I noticed an improvement in the car's performance. Not that the car was underperforming, but it was an improvement. And the reason being was that there's a vent hose to the intake manifold which runs into the rocket cover. And that piece of metal I took out of the rocket cover, I said was a baffle. Well, it is a baffle, but they call it an oil separation plate, or oil separating plate. And what the revelation was, and I'll show you in a minute, is the hose looks like it's about half an inch diameter, or 12 mil, and you think that the hole into the rocket cover would be the same, but it's not. It narrows right down to about, well, they say 2 mil hole here, but I used a bit of fuse wire to clean the hole out. That's how small it is. I was saying about a 1/16 of an inch. Anyway, I'll show you now on the car so you can get the gist of what I'm talking about here. And here's the hose here, and see, it looks about a half an inch, but when it goes into the rocket cover it's only a very small hole, about 1/16. And the difference was gunked up a bit and restricted, and this made a difference to the car engine's performance, and I shall explain more in a minute. Well, here we've got a picture of the engine, basic sort of a diagram, and the pipe I'm talking about is the one up in the left hand corner, 7 and 7A, and as you can see it narrows to a 2 millimeter hole, and on the main diagram you can see 7A where it comes into the inlet manifold. The reason that they've got it separate is because it's behind the other main intake, 6A, which is the air admission or vent hose. Now I'm going to read out the function description. The engine blow-by gases flow out of the crankcase through the oil separator, which is number 2 in the diagram, in the cylinder head rocket cover. The oil separated out at that point flows along a drain pipe, which is number 4, to the cylinder head. The blow-by gases pass to the combustion chambers in the following manner, depending on the load state of the engine. That's the intake manifold vacuum. Part load ventilation is it where our little hose 7 and 7A come into play. Blow-by gases in part load are drawn off through the 2 millimeter diameter bypass hole in the hose connection 7 of the cylinder head cover. That's a rocket cover. Into the intake manifold number 10. The vacuum which is produced in the crankcase as a result draws in fresh air from the air cleaner number 8 along the air admission or vent hose 6A. Now this is where the throttle is just partly open or closed. That's number 11, and that's where our little piece comes into play. So I reckon in my case the hole in the rocket cover was partially blocked, or might have even been completely blocked. So when I cleaned it out I noticed an improved performance in the car engine, and that would be
in the idling position. When the throttle valve number 11 is fully opened, the blow-by gases are led through the oil separator. That's the thing I was calling a baffle. It's probably still a baffle in the cylinder head cover, and along the air admission vent or vent hose 6A into the air cleaner number 8. In other words, it's running normal then through the normal vent hose into your air filter. That's where they're mixed with intake air and drawn off through the throttle valve into the combustion chambers. So our little one, number 7, is only basically in the idle position, and that's where I noticed the difference in the performance of the engine. It costs nothing, and I'd love to hear from anyone who gets a piece of wire, pulls the little hose off, number 7, and shoves the piece of wire up into the rocker cover, locates the little 2mm hole and cleans it out a bit. I'd love to hear if it makes any difference to the performance of their engine. Maybe I'm just going insane here. Okay, that's it for this part of the show.